Oh, Uncle Nutch here. Welcome to my Lincoln Block channel. Uncle Nudge here. I'm with Melissa. She's building a Lincoln Block house with her husband John, and you're going through a lot of kind of hard times with permits and stuff, but that'll go away. But you're still excited, right?
I'm really excited. The permits are the hard part. Lincoln Blocks has been easy.
Sweet.
Got my final design back, so I'm excited.
Nice. And you went up to Lincoln Block and you looked around, and I think you said one of the things that really impressed you was the fireproofing.
Oh my gosh, the fireproofing was insane. It was so cool to see how fire resistant it all was and to actually watch it try to catch fire and not catch fire.
Well, I have some footage of that. I think I'll show that now. And we'll talk to you again later.
Yes.
What did we do now? We had the torch against that.
So we had a pretty standard butane torch. I believe the torch flame is sitting at around 1600 degrees. We sat it here propped up for roughly 90 minutes, and that's the damage that we got out of it. After we did the torch test, we wanted to see what a more realistic fire would look like. So what we did is we took a cedar box and put a bunch of household garbage in it and then poured some mineral spirits all over the wall, and that's where all this big scorching is from. We lit that on fire and let that burn for about a half an hour. There's also a couple other things we've done to this wall. For instance, on the back side, you can see some of the damage that we've inflicted. Right here, we got a couple sledgehammer marks trying to knock this down. We actually braced the wall back so there wasn't any of this wobble, and it was simulating a solid application on a normal house. And then here, we actually have a couple exit wounds. We did some shooting tests on this thing. This was from a home defense shotgun round. We have a couple 9s down here. I believe one more shotgun here. And then we shot the front two with some 22. Those didn't go through. But the most interesting one is this one right here. It looks like it came out, but really what happened was I actually dug in there with a knife because we actually had a hollow point 9mm round that did not exit the other side, and we were shooting from about 20 yards away. So that was pretty impressive. Everything full metal jacket went through. So Lincoln Block is not fully bulletproof, but you may get lucky.
And so what I tell people is, if you think about your normal house and you have your wall board and you have your studs, well, you can kick your foot through that wall board, and then you can kick your foot probably through the OSB and the siding. And do you think you could possibly kick your foot through that? No. So it's just super strong. And having lived in a Lincoln Block home for a couple years, I can tell you that this insulation, these are insulated, it's so efficient, it's just amazingly crazy, and it don't take much to heat and it don't take much to cool. So next, let me talk about the tools I use. And probably something you don't have is a 15-inch Hitachi miter saw. But you can find these on Craigslist probably for about $3.50. And in my opinion, it's the way to go. It cuts the whole block at once. It's a beast. You'll need some levels, probably a 2-footer and 4-footer. I like these solo levels because I can see them with my 60-year-old eyes. DeWalt cordless tools, grinder, sawzall, circular saw. You need a nice caulk gun because you're going to be doing a lot of caulk. This tip is great for Lincoln Block application. You know, you need stuff like a drill driver and speed square, and I got staplers for plastic and chisel, sword tools. You need a router, headlamp, 45 gun that shoots 2.5-inch nails. You're going to shoot stainless steel nails. Framing gun that shoots 8-penny, 2 3/8 galvanized nails. A sledge, you're going to be pounding down the blocks. Maybe some kind of sander, finish sander, whatever. Definitely need a compressor. Probably get a pancake compressor, jigsaw. I use that mostly for cutting the tops off these. This Dynaflex 230 is an awesome product. Use the cedar tan color, and it acts a lot like a glue, but it's a great flexible caulk too. And like I say, you use a lot of it in last, garbage, and a shop vac. Okay, I'm going to kind of give you the basics of how you put together a Lincoln block. First, you can see I got a little stack of 2-footers there. Here's a 2-footer, and basically you've got a tongue and a groove on a block, and then you have these uprights, which are called risers. They're glued on and nailed with 2 stainless steel nails. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I've got a small wall built here just for demonstration, and so I'm going to show you this Dynaflex 230. I've got it open, and this is the tip, and being I've used it, it already is full of caulk, and so when you put it on, just that easy, you put it in your gun, and then the pressure, it makes it stay in there. So what we do with the block is put the caulk in to the groove, like to fill the whole area. Not doing the ends because I'm not going to have the space to put them in. But this is what's nice about this tip, is it goes around these risers real nice. And I know this block's going to stop about here, so that's all the further I'm going with the caulk. Okay, now put the block on. And we'll pound down all the risers. And I'd pound that down, and if there was 3 more, I'd pound those down. Probably look at the side and make sure it's seated in the groove. Another tool I use is just a scrap piece of block that I've cut the tongue off. And you can put it on and use it to hammer the block down good and tight wherever it needs to be, and that just keeps it from hitting on this tongue, because you can do it softly, but if you do it harder, it will damage them. It may even break off. So just make yourself a little tool like this. Okay, so now that this is down, we're going to nail it. And so everywhere where there's a riser, so like here, and you can see there's one there, we're going to put 1 nail in there. So you can tell there's a riser also because there's 2 nails below it. Now there's also 2 nails here, but that's a joint, so you know there's not going to be a riser there. So this one is actually hard to see the nails, but so anyway, so we've got a block going. Now the next block, say we go get it from a pile, and one thing about Lincoln block is just like an 8-foot 2x4 is not 8 feet, and the ends may not be square, and that's how all Lincoln blocks will need to be cut on both sides. You can see this one's definitely longer than this one. So we'll bring it over to the saw and cut it flush. I like to have a sandpaper right by the saw, and I'll hit the outside edge and get any burrs off. That way when you put the joints together, they'll be nice and clean, and you won't have to try to do it later. So you can see this one's a little bit longer. just takes a few seconds to do this sandpaper. So now the next block's going to go on. So one thing about it is the risers. And you got risers on here. So if we tried to put this block on, it actually hits that riser when it's flush here. So that won't work. So what you can try to do is turn the block around and see if it works that way. And it does. But there's also other risers that you got to make sure they all are okay to go down. If you're doing a straight long wall, it's probably pretty easy to do that. When I'm doing the 12-foot walls, there's more of looking at the risers and stuff. So now we're going to take and caulk this side up. So it's the same thing. Put it on the inside of the tongue. Same thing here. And then we'll do it on this block. Okay, when you're done, release your trigger. Otherwise, it just keeps squirting out. Okay, so now when we're making a joint, we did our caulk. But now we're gonna butter up the end, and just right up the middle to the tongue. So when these blocks go together, they're gonna create a seal right there. So now, if we try to put this on, remember this is backwards, it's gonna hit. So we get it on. We pound it to this one, all those, and then you could pound the end and get it to seal up. And check everything again. Once you pound it over, it may lift up on you, so make sure it's down. Then we'll nail it. And we can see there's a riser here. So we'll nail it there. And that's the only riser in this demonstration. And you also do the back side of them. Both sides. I can't reach it with my current setup, but pretend I did. Okay, then we have something called a splice block or a double block. And it's rounded on one side. And that's so it can go down into the block, into the next block down. And we want it to get this level, basically. So you can see it goes down in there. So that creates a nice joint. So you put that kind of where you got put it right in the middle, then pound down. And I think you can see, let's see if I can do it. It's moving this out. And you don't reef on this, you just pound it in gently. And maybe you can see it's going to go into the next block. So let's get it fairly level. And then for these, we'll nail both of them. 2 nails each side, and then the other side. So now we've got a joint. So then you'd go on to your next one. You'd do it the same way. So you do have to be aware of where your risers are and where your blocks are. But after a little learning curve, you learn, and you can start to just eyeball. You can look at your wall. You can see the risers there and see if yours fits. And sometimes I'll just go dry fit them to make sure they're going to work. Maybe even before I cut the ends. So anyway, that's the basics of how you do a Lincoln block wall. Pretty sweet.